Welcome everyone.
How's it
Roma
going?
here, aka Roma Aquatics.
BluShadow.
Brandon Birdwell.
All right, I'm here to ask a bunch of questions that most new people would want to know, and general interviews and discussions. So, what got you guys into shrimp in the first place?
Well, I just enjoyed the tranquility that the tanks brought me. Honestly, it kind of took me away from the stresses of the real world. You know, I do collections. You know, so a lot of times I'm being yelled at by consumers, and hey, it just takes me away from a lot of that. And I enjoy it.
Exactly. And you, Chris?
I've been doing aquariums my entire life, pretty much. Dave Strobel, one of my childhood friends. Shout out to Dave. I went over to his house one day, and he had a 75-gallon tank that he just got. And ironically, he put like 6 little tiny ass pea puffer, YouTube Live, sorry, tiny pea puffers, and it was just super funny to see these little tiny fish in this tank. But I fell in love with aquariums, and I immediately went and got like I think a 20 long or a 20 gallon, and it went from there. You know, I started breeding all sorts of fish. Started with the live bears, obviously guppies, mollies, platies, stuff like that. Then I got into axolotls. Was actually the first thing that I actually was able to breed and kind of self-sustain the payment, have it pay for itself, kind of. And then discus, I actually started making a little bit of profit, and then I got into shrimp from there. So.
Yeah, I know, like with myself, I've done cichlids my whole life, and Chris was the one year that got me into tanks. I would come over and help maintain some of his tanks in the basement while we were practicing our spray paint art business.
Yeah, we used to own a business together. You see them guys in New York City and Vegas doing them 1-minute quick space art paintings. Yeah, we can do that. If you want one, get a hold of us. We can still do that for you.
Now, how long have you guys been doing shrimp?
I've been doing shrimp probably maybe 4.5 years. You know, again, I was doing African cichlids, and you know, they get a little boring. You know, obviously there's not much of a change once they get going. So
here, I'm
No,
gonna
that's
hit this
even more-
focus. Sorry, guys, pause because I see the focus going nuts over
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And I'm also gonna turn down the lighting a little bit because I think there's a little bit of a flare in his face. How's that?
That's actually really good.
Okay. Yeah, there was a little bit of a flare going on there. I wanted to fix that. So cool. All right, perfect.
Now, it's even more shocking that you've only been in it for 4 years, and here it is, you got an award this year at A&E in New Jersey.
yeah, I think it's just a matter of just taking shrimp and putting some work into it. You know, it doesn't really take long. Once you show the effort, you know, the work will prove
Now,
itself.
How long have you been into shrimp, Chris?
I mean, my first actual shrimp tank, I think, was a cherry tank that I bought off Aquabit about 4 years ago. But that was when I was still breeding the discus, so it was more of a secondary, just something I thought was cool. Because at the time I was working in the pet care department at PetSmart, and all they sold was ghost shrimp at the time. But I always saw them buried up and pregnant, and I would pull them off into like a tank in the back room and try to breed them and convince my manager that, hey man, instead of buying them, like every time we buy them, we get them in and like 75% of them are dead the next day. Like, why don't we just try breeding them here in our water and we'll be better? And then, but obviously the ones we were getting in, I guess there are ghost shrimp that will breed in fresh water, but those weren't the kind we were getting. So we would see babies and then 3 days later, nothing. That's really what was like my first step into the shrimp was at PetSmart, doing those ghost shrimp in the back room, trying to get them to breed, and I just kept failing. And then I went online, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try it home, but you know, let's try something else. And then I discovered cherry shrimp, and I was like, holy crap. So I bought, I think, 20 cherry shrimp, and I put them in my 75-gallon tank.
Yeah.
And then I bought like 20 blue velvet shrimp on Aquabit as well. And
It seems like for most people, you know, they start out with the cherries, and then obviously they learn what they're doing there, and then they want to progress. You know, it seems like you talking, you want to go right into, you know,
Yeah, I
shadow
want to
pandas
jump right
and
into
right
blue shadow
Canadian.
pandas.
Yep,
So
yeah.
it seems like you're trying to skip and just.
So for all of you who don't know, this is my buddy Rob. We've been childhood friends forever. He's starting his own channel, kind of. His BluShadow Panda is
Yeah.
his favorite shrimp, so that's why he's known as
And
BluShadow.
my channel's going to be more towards like the whole setup, beginning to end. Like being a fish guy, not into shrimp, what do I need, how to set up a tank, how do you test the waters, how do you feed them properly and try to take care of something. And if I'm going to jump in it, everybody says start off with the easy guys. Well, if I can learn a hard guy off the bat, I can probably try to take care of anything. But it doesn't help that here in Buffalo we have a nice shrimp community, and that community is there good for support and information. And like Chris and Brandon being so involved in this, I can contact them at any moment. Hey, this is what's going on, and that might be able to steer me in the right direction to help take care of things, or and tell me if things are dire and I need to do something that minute.
Yeah, but I'm going to jump in right there. I mean, the shrimp hobby, the community. I mean, Brandon and I have lived probably 5 minutes from each other our whole lives, but we met each other in Chicago at Aquatic Experience 2017. Like, so how weird is that? I'm in Chicago and I'm like, oh, hey, I live on Clinton. And he's like, oh, hey, I live on William. I'm like, oh, that's 5 minutes from me.
And how much weirder was it?
Yeah,
It was like, hey, I know that guy. His face is somewhere. And it wasn't even before we knew that he was from Buffalo.
Exactly.
It was just how things seemed to link.
So it was awesome. It's awesome. And now I'd consider ourselves good friends now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good friends.
Now, I know with like fish, it's okay to keep multiple fish in the same tank because it doesn't breed together. And the shrimps, I know they crossbreed all the time. So you try to keep everything a little more separate. So in that case, how many tanks do you have, Chris?
Right now, I think the count is at 45, 49 if you count the 4 ponds, but I don't because they're not tanks and they don't really have anything in them. 3 of them are just plants going, and then the other one's just my crystal culls. So,
And which is your favorite out of all of your tanks?
right now the zebra babolti are at the top of my list. I got them through Flip Aquatics. Celine's the breeder, and I absolutely love them.
And what about you, Brandon? How many tanks and what's your favorites?
I'm going through a little bit of a restructure. I have probably about 30 plus tanks up now. I probably have about, that or more in storage ready to be put up once I move. But I have a lot of interest. Obviously, I'm known for, the boas that I got from, Vinfish, the competition. Great line of shrimp. Right now I'm kind of dealing with the orange eye stuff that I've acquired through the Aquatic Experience. Pretty cool.
Shout out to Ray. Love
absolutely.
you, Ray, man.
Always.
Again, that actually brings me right into the next question. Who do you guys look up to in the shrimp community? Because there's so many people.
So many.
But there's certain ones that you idolize above the rest.
Yeah, you go first on that, please.
Personally, I think Eric Lucas right now, he's doing a lot. He gives back a lot.
He gives it back to the community and donations.
Yeah, he's trying. Obviously he's got a business. He's doing what he can. He tries
He's buypetshrimp.com, by the way. Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt. Yeah.
exactly. Just a great guy. So I think he's somebody that we could all look up to. Very knowledgeable in the hobby. He attends a lot of the competitions and a lot of the community give back type things.
Yeah.
Just
He's a good guy. He's generally a really great guy.
And who do you look up to, Chris?
Eric Lucas is definitely one of them, but we've covered him. There's Flip Aquatics. He basically taught me a lot of what I know getting into the business. Plamsky, he's one of my favorite breeders when it comes to Caridina. Everything
absolutely.
I've got from him.
Good guy as well.
Yeah, everything I've got from him have lived.
And,
He's one of my, actually, he's probably on my top right now. Like, if it was like, who would you rather buy a shrimp out of anyone's tanks? It'd probably be him, and because I know that shrimp's going to be healthy and great.
Actually, when I first started the hobby, Jason Lynn, when he was originally running
Blue Crown,
he was the one that kind of was my main help getting set up with beginning to end, going through it, and I know he got kind of busy doing his thing, and Blue Crown's now going on to his Roby and
Roby, yeah, and Roby and Elvis, I think, are pretty much running Blue Crown right now. Shout out to them, Roby Chan, Elvis Ha, Elvis Billy Ha.
Like me, not being in the shrimp game, I can only tell you by the people I see amazing shrimp at these events at all the competitions, and the ones who are
Oh, sorry.
there.
Carbon Chen,
Carbon?
Vin, Slane. I mean, we've kind of moved on to the next top. I have many more
Exactly.
people that I have role models of.
You just
besides
pulled all the
them,
names
but
that I was going to say because those are the guys that I actually see and go, hey, you bred this line. Like, these are famous.
Exactly.
And like Rob Jackson and his Blue Bolts are another really well-known.
You know, there's so many people in the hobby that help bring it to what
The
what
level
at
it
this
is.
point. And honestly, you know, I think we need to spread that. We need to grow the hobby every day. We need to spread the energy. And honestly, I don't think there's really too many things in our lives that bring us together. You know, it doesn't matter what the race, what, you know, ethnical background.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what it is. And honestly, just I don't know, it's just awesome.
Agree 100%. Like, this is a little sidetrack, but this is perfect based on what you said. One of the reasons that, like, when I got into the hobby, and I said Flip Aquatics, I learned a lot when I first got in. I was watching all of his, basically because I'm a YouTube, right? I like YouTube. I learn everything I know off of YouTube. So I search for shrimp on YouTube. Who's going to pop up? Flip Aquatics,
And
right?
you.
So, well, this is pre me existing, and there's plenty others, so I don't even want to put myself in the same level as him, because I'm not. But basically, I learned a lot from him, and when I messaged him and he replied to me, first of all, that blew my mind, because it was like some peon messaging a celebrity.
This is Lupton?
And then,
Yeah.
Rob Lupton, and them actually responding. And then, like, basically, he helped me, and in my mind, I'm like, if this was any other business, you would be doing everything you can to keep me down and prevent me from succeeding. But in the shrimp hobby, it's the exact opposite, whether it be a business or a
my growth
hobby.
is your growth, and just
It's-
us growing period is just what we all
Good
need.
for the business as
It's
a whole.
great for everyone, and it's insane because you don't see that in any other business. Even discus, axolotl, you don't see that.
Well, we need to
it's
spread the
shrimp.
knowledge, because think about it, you know, there's so many people that are involved in the aquatic life, but they've never dealt with shrimp. And the first thing they ask is this saltwater?
Exactly,
It's not
because they
saltwater.
look like saltwater.
It's
Yeah.
obviously there's maintenance to your shrimp, but I mean, no, it's not saltwater. And a lot of time, it's very easy to have these tanks and these shrimp that everybody want. You know, like you said, instead of going right through the neos and kind of learning, you've already had, you know, friends that are going through all that. They've went through the hiccups that you might need to go through to, you know, get to where you want to be. And you know, you have a lot of support, like you said. So
That actually
So
brings
much
me
support,
perfectly to the
like
next
he would be
questions.
perfectly
What you have,
successful. He's a member
stuff.
of the fish groups on Facebook,
Yeah.
the shrimp groups on Facebook. That, you know, the groups on Facebook, they help you. I feel closer to them people than, like, when I went to Aquatic Experience, I was hanging out with my best friends.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like I know those people,
Right.
even though I haven't seen any of them ever. I mean, I've seen a handful of them last year at Aquatic Experience, and
Right.
most of them are still new, but it's people I talk to on a daily basis.
Yeah, the
So
camaraderie is
I
just
know
amazing.
them.
Absolutely.
I
Now-
know them.
Just because of that, it brings us right back to the actual shrimp. Now, shrimps are relatively taken care of in the community because they actually have specific water qualities they need. Now, like, what kind of water qualities do they need, and what do each of those factors go to?
It really just depends on the species of shrimp. You know, Neo, Cardina, or Caridina. You know, higher pH, lower pH. You know, obviously, I'm sure it comes to the background of the shrimp. But again, you know, you got your higher end. You know, generally the Caridinas, they need the lower pH, and you got your easier to care for. You know, sometimes you can manage it with tap water, and you know that's why again it's easier for beginners.
Now, like, I see a lot of people comment about, like, their KH, GH, TDSs and all that. What are they, and how do they actually play a little bit of a role in this?
Just different parameters that control kind of where your shrimp are at. TDS, total dissolved solids. GH, general hardness of the water, and KH, my buddy here, Roma.
KH is the carbonate hardness.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not
we
really
want none
sure.
of, so, hey.
Exactly, we don't really want that unless you're a Neo tank or tigers, I guess. Some tigers, mostly not, I guess. Yeah, KH is generally the enemy for the higher grade shrimp, so you just want to stay away from that. Here, I'll go grab my minerals. I'll be right back. We can break this down real easy.
Well, actually, while that's going, Brandon, Have you found there's certain things that help you bury a female a little more, or is it just time?
Yeah, obviously, a mature tank, has a lot to do with it. Certainly, the age of the shrimp. Fresh after molts, the temperature of the water. I'm sure there's so many different things that play roles in whether or not your shrimp are hairy and hairy.
Hairy.
Make sure they're buried up and do what they do.
Because I've heard certain people talk about like their tricks are just lowering the water so there's less water, and they think it's like a dire situation where certain
A
fish
lot of times
actually
you
follow
think,
that.
You think honestly that could be.
It
something,
could work,
yeah.
something like that. A slight change in temperature, drastically over 12 hours. You never know what happens.
Yeah,
If
there's
they
so
don't
many
bury up,
factors.
they're
But
gonna die, they're
I
gonna
do
be
want to
extinct.
make a
Yeah,
comment on that. When you do stuff like that,
You're stressing the shrimp out, and it's like,
exactly.
is
That's
it,
pushing
and is
it,
it
though.
smart for the shrimp?
No, I wouldn't do it in my tanks personally. No, I can see how it could work, but with shrimp, patience. The more you try to rush stuff, the least successful you're going to be. And when you put money, if you try to go the cheap way, like
It'll generally cost you.
it costs you
Yeah,
more.
for sure.
The cheapest way is the
let's-
most
let's try to-
expensive.
Let's
way.
try to buy shrimp through, hey, get a package through EMS. One maybe you get through, and then the next three don't. And then the one that you got through, half of those shrimp lived.
And then you threw them on
and then
fluvial
at that
soil.
point- exactly.
Because that was the
And
cheapest.
Now they'll never bury up, and you're just, so it's just always easier to buy, if possible, homebred shrimp. That way
Homebred.
you could avoid a lot of the issues, but, that's not always an option. We have to, a lot of the times, buy
In the United
imported
States
shrimp when
especially.
we're dealing with higher end shrimp, because not many people, stateside have these species.
Yeah.
By the way, side plug, that's an extra reason to go to the Aquatic Experience, because you get to buy shrimp that you would normally need a license to buy.
Sure.
So there you go. The shrimp are already brought into the U.S. and these are normally shrimp you'd
They're already
need
here,
imported
ready for you to take
ready to
home.
go. So
Now, that actually brings. What's in your hand? What kind of things are needed to get
All right.
started in tank
So
shrimping?
starting shrimping, you don't need. Let's start with what is considered easy, but I don't want to promote that because I personally am having more issues with my Neos than I do with my Tigers or any of my low pH water. So let me rephrase that. I am having problems with, yes, my Neos more than I'm having problems with my low pH water. So the fact that people say Neos are easier, that's not always the case. It depends on where you are
When
and
you're
what your
trying
water
to change
is.
so many factors of the water and trying to, get it to what's going to make the shrimp comfortable, a lot of the times, less is more.
Exactly.
And
I'm
So
actually to
Chris's
the
tanks are
now that
very
he said
well
less
that.
is more. This is let's go for that less is more. So this is the remineralizer that I bought, salty shrimp, GHKH plus for my Neos and my Royal Blue Tigers that are in high GH water, and my Zebra Babaltis. So that's what I use this for. But my Neos, before I bought all this fancy stuff and I had my reverse osmosis system. So first of all, you need a reverse osmosis deionization system to get your TDS water to 0 before you use this. But then once I got that and I was like, oh, I'm going to switch everything over. My Neos were doing fairly well. Switched them over, remineralized. Now I'm having problems. So my water, to me that says my tap water on a general, tap water changes constantly. So we don't want to say it's always constant. But that was the reason I wanted to get out of the tap water. But on a general day-to-day basis, my tap water is generally seeming to do better than this in my area in Buffalo, New York. So I'm thinking about switching back, but there's many places that have bad water that this is going to be your key to success.
But I do think, around here we have perfect water for Neos,
Exactly. There's no reason.
The only thing that I've ever done
Maybe
was
set
just
those out.
remove the chlorine, and
I
that's
could
just
keep talking, but
normal with any type of water change, for anything not needing the RO water or anything.
Now, besides just the water and the minerals, is there anything else that you tend to put in every one of your tanks, or?
Leaves. I do have sometimes cholla wood in most of my tanks. Fern, moss I think is critical. But obviously, having a nice algae buildup is huge. You want these small shrimp that generally aren't able to get up in front and eat off the pellets. You got to have ways for them to get food, and I think Chris has really kind of hit it in the head the nail on the head with the SEMO.
Now, what is this SEMO, by the way?
So I don't want to take credit for SEMO. I didn't hit the nail on the head. Selene hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
And SEMO stands for Shrimp Effective Microorganism. And basically, it's a BT9 mixture that's sold by Missoura, which is Selene's company. And he basically, I don't know exactly what the 9 microorganisms are, but you throw them in just like you were brewing beer or wine or something. You throw them in a bottle with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of the rich water nutrients, which is actually optional. So that's not even, you don't even really need that. But you throw it in a dark place at room temperature for a while, and it starts to ferment and bubble, and the bacteria multiplies, and it eats that sugar, and it poops out alcohol, just like ferment, and that's why it bubbles, and it gets carbon dioxide. But it's basically a liquid.
Smells
food.
like a nitrifying
Smells
bacteria,
like he says nitrifying bacteria.
I say it's Limburger cheese.
He sells or Lorraine Swiss.
Lorraine Swiss, yeah.
Swiss.
I said Limburger first, thinking about it.
I think it smells like if you go outside after a long rain when your garbage can's full and you take a shot of that water out of the bottom of your garbage can. That's pretty much, that, and then you will distill it a little bit to make it pure and more smelly. That's
I know if you want to learn more on the SEMO, you can always watch Chris's video.
Yeah, there's a video on brewing SEMO. Also, discov.com has the recipe. So.
No, I've noticed like Chris's tanks tend to have like a certain recipe that seems to work for him, where he's got his substrate, he puts a little bit of Sawasser tang, a piece of cholo, and a small rock or a large rock, and calls it quits.
You know, pretty much a lot of people have, Brandon does a lot of the more preparation. It depends on your soil. I use Brightwell soil, so it doesn't have that break-in period that other soils would have. So I tend to kind of, and this leans against mainstream for sure. Most people probably think I'm nuts, honestly, in the shrimp community for doing what I do. When I made that video yesterday and I said my shadow pandas are in here 22 hours after I filled it,
Yep.
most people probably wanted to slit my throat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not normal. Brandon probably wouldn't do that.
No. And if I did, I would certainly add, the vials of what is it?
The bio,
exactly.
exactly.
Biofilm.
Even if there is ammonia near.
I mean, I did use seeded filters
and some other stuff. Obviously, that all helps, and obviously that's going to speed your cycle. But obviously, I wouldn't do that with a $500 shrimp.
Oh no! If those were fancy tigers,
I wouldn't do that with
way.
any expensive or high-end shrimp that you truthfully don't care about.
I was just going to ask too. Then, is there really a wait time after setting up a new tank? Then,
but I've honestly
there's many
had
different methods, but
everybody has, like I said, what works for Chris might not work for me, and obviously we've gone back and forth on ideas, and like we discuss those things that work for you, it doesn't work for me.
But we both use totally different products. Totally, like our tank environments, even though the parameters may say they're the exact same, they're not the same at all.
If I'm not mistaken, you follow
you know what I mean?
the VIN method, I think it was called.
Right.
Yeah,
where you let the biofilm really build up and
it's a lot of
cycle properly.
There's a lot of products
with a lot
and
of the methods, but his lately that was one of the ones that I've tried out, and it's had a lot of good results for sure.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that tank had shrimp in it before that 20. I just want to clarify because people might not have seen that video. That tank had shrimp in it before, so there's already a good algae buildup on all the glass. So basically, all I did was take a neo tank and convert it into a low pH.
Oh well, then
tank.
that's not really the
So,
tanks
yeah,
we're
That's
talking
why.
like a
That's
whole new
exactly why I
setup.
wanted to clarify. It's not a completely new. Here's a 10-gallon I got from PetSmart yesterday. I threw some Brightwell in it and filled it up with the seeded. So I want to totally clarify.
That's a big difference.
Huge difference because I already have a good amount of biofilm covering, and that's the point of waiting. So totally needed to clarify that, 100%.
Now, do you guys recommend starting with fish or just jumping right into shrimp?
Like I said, for most of the people that are already involved, once they find out about shrimp and it's not saltwater,
Something that
immediately
draws
something
them in.
instantly. I know it interested me. I bred African cichlids, and it was cool, mouth brooders, and just their whole ability to reproduce was awesome. I mean, it's just
I mean,
cool
you
to
never
watch,
see a fish spit out 30 fish and
Right.
just suck them back
Sure.
in.
See,
like that is super
I did
cool.
the cichlids, but I never saw any of those.
Oh, the mouth brooders are so
I had
cool.
Jack
man.
Dembski's, which
Just
they
laid
were
up.
egg layers, but then those guys still popped and they followed around and hovered around their mom.
And then again, if you want your female, because if you think when she's holding eggs in her mouth, to get big and to release them, she's not eating, you know,
Yep.
unless she's swallowing a baby every now and then, you know, and again, it's not safe. So I would go in and I would strip the mom. I'd get them to, you know, release them, put them in an egg tumbler, which, you know, can have good results if you knew what you were doing. But there's always your learning curve, so you're going to lose some.
Now,
but again,
did that help you raise shrimp better, or do you
I'm
think?
sure, yeah, of course. I'm sure.
Absolutely. It teaches you about parameters, water
you're
care.
doing water changes, and
Yeah.
you're getting into the rhythm of what you need to have.
But I wouldn't
healthy
necessarily
tanks.
say you need to raise
No.
fish before getting into shrimp. Not at all. I would definitely. It just helps to know about water parameters and what it takes to take care of an aquarium in general. It doesn't matter if it's a goldfish, a beta, or breeding fish, or shrimp, or I mean, it could be sea monkeys.
Now,
You know?
I actually have a question towards where I want to go. What is a BluShadow panda? Do they throw BluShadow panda kids all the time, or are there other variations that they throw?
Obviously, you're going to have. I mean, if you have a solid line, for the most part, you're going to get that same line of shrimp.
So
You will obviously have various patterns, you know, that get thrown. You know, some that are going to have higher quality than others. I mean, but that just comes with any type of shrimp. You know, you're going to have to do some grading and culling and, you know, pulling the better ones into, you know, their own tank and moving others. But
there's always a good amount. If you want to have a really nice color BluShadow panda, right? You're going to want to start out with good genes, and they're hard to find. So
Yeah.
what I would do is I'd contact Robert Jackson and say, hey, give me one of your blue bolts. I'm going to mate it with this panda over here. I'm going to take those genes to the next level. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I tried to do.
and I've recently just, you know, noticed, some higher end shrimp that I'm like, whoa, what's that? And they're with some extreme blue bolts, with, you know, say some snowflake fish bones and stuff.
Wow,
You know, I'm like, well, you know, if that was a different color, that'd be a boa, you know, or a high grade, you know, shrimp that would cost some money, and they're mixing those with extremes. And that's where I think they're getting that blue pattern into that, you know, the fish bone. Can't confirm it, but, you know, looking at the pictures, why would you have those expensive shrimp?
Some of the stuff I was finding
That
out
makes sense.
that
Yeah.
the blue is coming towards
And having
a
conversations
lack of
with
a
some
white
others,
gene.
that's, you know,
Yeah, talking with the people, that's what helps.
Yeah.
Talk to the breeders, talk to where they can know. I mean, you get that information, you know.
See, that was the thing. Like, I was finding out some stuff where they say the blue pattern is the lack of the ability to carry the white. But then there's other BluShadow pandas that have white genes.
Yeah, I don't
So
believe
it's
that.
hard to say
That
which
doesn't
way to
make
go,
sense to
too.
me.
But if you look
I
at
think
it,
they have, you know, there was the classic shadow panda, which was obviously the more whitish ones. And then obviously, I think at some point, you know, they probably did get mixed with, you know,
Blue
whether it's
bolts.
blue bolts,
Yeah.
and then that's where you started getting the, you know, the blues and.
Or blue bolts were created from nicer shadow pandas.
oh, kind of like a Michelin.
Out of which came chicken
Sure,
first to the egg, the
exactly.
panda
Right.
or the blue bolt? I mean, is there any information? Please leave comments if you know which came first.
Exactly.
The chicken or egg, the Taiwan bee shadow panda, or the blue bolt. Where did the blue start? Let me know, because who knows? They're all Taiwan bees, but which one came first?
Well, unfortunately, being a new video, I'm going to have to wrap mine. But please come over to Roma's channel. I'll have the link below. And you can continue watching this video and the rest of our interview. Have a good night, guys.